if we ended up in a situation where we were at odds in some way with the rest of the world, my my philosophy and my theory was while they may, impose martial law and while they may round up people in the cities, nobody's going to care about a solitary Negro in the woods. And so
sounds like a good philosophy.
yeah. And still today, if you could learn one thing off of The Walking Dead, is that no place is indefinitely defensible.
Donald Trump here. We ran right over Nikki Haley. Sleepy Joe, wakey wakey. We're coming for you next. But I'm here to endorse the Shoot to Hunt podcast. It's the best. Just ask the people, look at the people, the beautiful peoples. Give it up for Jake, the bearded giant, and Ryan, the elk slayer.
That intro gets a lot of feedback. Love-hate relationship with that intro.
All the intros, actually.
Yeah.
Makes me smile.
That's Luke. That's Luke and his voices. Yeah, he's got a variety of voices.
Some good, some not so good, but he tries. He does a good job.
He's got to be in character.
Yeah, he's got to be in the right mood. Well, I don't know how to really intro this guy because he has so many layers like an onion, like we talked about before the podcast. We have Ray Livingston on the show.
Hello. Good. Thank you for having me on.
When he said, "Oh, Ray Livingston," I didn't know who you were, I'll be honest, when he said it 2 weeks ago. So, you don't think of much, you go look you up and then damn, you got a resume, sir. It's 10 feet long.
YouTube, TV, podcasts.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like you've done all kinds of things. And you came to in my opinion, I've been hunting, grew up in hunting, but you came to it through a different manner, in my opinion. You weren't inner city any means, but your first, I guess I'll let you tell your story, but you basically track star, University of Oregon. I giggled a little when English and a minor in philosophy.
Yeah.
That was the best. I was like, oh yeah. No, I knew before I met you could probably talk. You have lots of opinions.
Yes, I do.
Nice.
So can you take us from like Ray at a young age into where you first started hunting? Can we start there?
Yeah, I was born in Portland, Oregon, and grew up through 6th grade in inner city Portland. And then, my dad had a unfortunate car accident that left him an amputee. There was a settlement from that. And, being the late 80s when all the gangs and everything were starting to kind of jump off, one of the first things he did with that settlement is he got us out of the city. So he moved us out to rural Gresham, Oregon, which really closer to Sandy, Oregon. So more cows than people, no street lights, no sidewalks. And that's where I met my still best friend, Jim Calcano, and his family. And my dad and I didn't hunt. We did a lot of fishing. But Jim's family, it really introduced me to hunting. And, we started off with pheasants and waterfowl. And then he showed me that he had a bow, and we started shooting bows, and he let me borrow his left-handed no-name bow that I learned to shoot right-handed. And at 14, I harvested my first elk with that left-handed bow.
Oh, shit. Shot right-handed.
Shot
Wow.
right-handed, and I was hooked.
Did you modify the grip at all, or you just...
No. I mean, this is one of those, it's the 80s. It's one of those little wheel bows. And I think I was shooting Muzzy broadheads at the time with some old Easton arrows, and they were probably all mismatched and, just something. And I remember that first elk. I had never seen a live elk at that point. And then we were doing a hunting drive, and the elk herd went out of the side of the drive and all came back in right where I was standing. And so I'd never seen an elk. I'm this, reforming city kid, and I am now surrounded by a herd of elk. I remember drawing back. I was just hiding behind this tree, and I remember looking up and seeing an arrow sticking out of elk. There was a little blackout period in between, and my heart was probably going, your typical first shot situation. And I think I missed the one that I was actually aiming at, but had a heart shot on a calf. It was a 0 point bull with spots, and still one of the best tasting elks I've ever had.
How old were you?
I was 14.
Left-handed bow, shooting right-handed.
Yeah.
But that probably set the spark in motion, I'm guessing.
Definitely. From then on, and still, my New Year's isn't January 1st. It's the beginning of my first hunting season.
That's like I said, interesting way to get there. So how, like you go and you continue hunting, I'm guessing, till college.
Yep.
So I imagine you couldn't hit it hard when you're actually a track star athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you got away from it a little while while you're University of Oregon?
Yep, I did. Even when I went to college at University of Oregon, I went there on a track and field scholarship. And so I was a decathlete. And so I practiced 4 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then there's college courses.
What is that decathlete? Is that multiple disciplines or?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So we do 10 events over the course of 2 days. So one of the more famous ones is Bruce Jenner or Daley Thompson, Jim Thorpe, or Dan O'Brien from this area were well-known decathletes. So I did that through college, and so I really didn't have time for a lot of hunting until my senior year, and I was the favorite for the NCAA national championship that year. And right at the beginning of the outdoor season, I had a disc herniate, and so I lost some feeling in one of my legs, actually. Like my lower leg was kind of numb. And so we figured it out, but I was out for about a month early going into the outdoor season that I was the favorite to win the NCAA decathlon. And so, at that time, I went back. I was, kind of upset. I had a month I couldn't really do anything. I'm going to classes and everything. And so I was just kind of went to a probably not as low place. It's not a real low place, but for me, it was a low place. And my answer was always to go back into the woods. And so that's when I started hunting again, bought a new bow, and started getting out around in Eugene, Oregon there.
Nice.
One doesn't get into or get on the show alone by accident. When did the bushcraft survivalists, where did that come from? Because you say you're hunting at 14, but like I'm guessing to go to alone, you got to know your shit. So when did that start, and how did you build on that?
What do you do? You video yourself as like kind of an interview
for
right?
alone?
You submit that to the show and see if you get selected, or how does that work too?
That's normally how it works.
Okay.
So there's an application process, and people go through that application process. I did not go through that. There's still a certain number of people that the casting companies just go out and look for people that they think would be a good fit for the show. And for some reason, I was one of those people. And so I started doing survival stuff, not really as to be a survivor. I was never a survivalist. I was never a bushcrafter or whatnot, but I hunted alone, and I wanted to be able to go in deep, go in alone, because of my athleticism. A lot of my friends really didn't like to hunt with me because I went wherever I thought the animals were. And if that meant climbing a gigantic mountain or dropping into a bottom of a canyon, I'd rather hunt where the animals are at. And so after years of hunting alone, I kind of realized, nothing's really happened, but I could kind of die out here. And so I started just kind of delving into the just basic survival skills stuff. And then I was actually a police officer at one point in Eugene, Oregon, after my college days. And I was a police officer there during 9/11. And at the time, the politicians of the day are saying they hate us for our freedom, and the rest of the world is saying we hate your U.S. foreign policy. And I'm like, whatever the situation is, uh, if we ended up in a situation where we were at odds in some way with the rest of the world, my my philosophy and my theory was while they may, impose martial law and while they may round up people in the cities, nobody's gonna care about a solitary Negro in the woods. And so
Sounds like a good
and
philosophy.
so yeah. And still today, if you could learn one thing of The Walking Dead is that no place is indefinitely defensible.
Yeah.
And so, I always it never made sense. I mean, I've got stuff to be prepared. I've got some stockpiles of stuff, but my idea was that I need to be mobile. And and if if the unthinkable happened, who knows at any time where I'm going to be. I could be out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. I could be at work. I could be anywhere, and I needed to be able to get away from people in the city and the chaos that would ensue, and then kind of be able to survive for a while through that, and then regroup. And I just needed to know the basic skills, and so but I like sharing. I mean, I was never out to be on TV. I never applied for any show.
They just contacted you out of the blue.
Out of the blue off
What?
YouTube.
What did they say?
Or my
YouTube.
not YouTube, excuse me, Facebook.
Okay.
And so they contacted me, and I like to share. Like, this is my adventure. I like to share the things that I love with people, and that's what I use social media for. Is to just really share my adventure and share the outdoors with people that don't get out and see it, and try to do what I can to inspire people to get out and just spend some time there. Because in a lot of ways, in a lot of different points in my life, the connection with the outdoors probably saved my life, and it's brought me a peace that I'm always happy. I'm always at peace, and a lot of that I attribute to finding myself, finding my place in the world, and kind of building this connection with the outdoors. And so, the casting folks from Alone one day just contacted me up through my Facebook page and was like, "Hey, would you be interested in this?" And I'm no fool. I'm sure, they get 10 to 20,000 applicants. Most of them fall into one demographic, white males. And I know this is television, and they're trying to build a cross section. They're trying to have so many women, so many people of color, whatever. But I looked at it, and I had never considered myself a survivalist, and so I was like, I didn't feel like I was ready for it, but I knew that I could be. So I accepted the invitation and put myself through a crash course of real, more intensive wilderness survival stuff, and ended up being chosen for the show and going out.
How long from that time they contacted you to the time you found yourself on the TV show? It was in Alaska, yeah?
It was in the Northwest Territories of Canada.
Okay.
And so, yeah, same situation. It was probably about 3 months total. Like,
Did you do all that training and learning on your own, or did you go get some mentor, or how did that work for you?
A little bit. I reached out to some of the previous participants, and then as I kind of, you start to tune in or get connected, and so a lot of cool people came forth. One of the big things for me was fire, and so
I got some moves, man.
Right. One of the big things is fire to me, and there's a great, very knowledgeable wilderness survival or bushcrafting primitive skills instructor, Chris Morawski, who happened to live in my area. So I spent some time with him, and he taught me some stuff, but most of it was, University YouTube. I can go out and
University YouTube?
University of YouTube. Go out, figure out. The first thing I did actually was to just I was doing search and rescue at the time. So I was a search and rescue canine handler looking for lost people. So I took my search and rescue pack and I just picked it up, drove 2 miles from my house, chose a random road and then a random spur road, and then walked in a mile. And basically, with what I have in my pack, I had a goal of getting a fire, making a shelter, and making a trap of some sort. And I realized I wanted to see where my baseline was. Like, what do I need to work on? And I was humbled. It happened to also be one of Oregon's wonderful wonderful storms, winter weather storms. So there was a little hail and rain and everything, but it gave me a good chance to not only see where I was skill wise, but to actually kind of experience the things that I'd seen on the show. I actually hadn't watched the show at all prior to that. Then I went and watched a few episodes, and I can, through my experience, I could see like, well, this didn't work and this didn't work and whatever. This is stupid. I should just go home and come back. And I was like, no, I made myself. The goal was to stay there overnight, just one night. So I just put myself in that situation where and to experience the suck, to experience the emotions and stuff that I would feel in the show and understand what we'd go through, and then kind of set my baseline there and then figure out what I needed to spend time learning.
The overall show is there's 10 or 12 participants that over the season you guys are competing for a prize money at the end. But how are people being kicked off the show, or how do you lose your spot? How are they weeding through the 12 as you go through the season?
Tap out.
It's self
Oh,
tap.
it's literally a tap out.
Or medical.
Yep,
Or
tap out or medical.
Yeah.
There's 10 people that, and first of all, the show is legit.
Yeah.
It is what it purports.
That was
to
one
be.
of my questions.
It's legit. It is exactly what it purports to be. That the people, the viewers don't know all of the ins and outs of the show, but the show is, they drop you off with your 10 items and the camera gear by yourself, and you've got to take care of all of your needs.
What got you?
Huh?
What got you?
For me, it was a realization that there just wasn't enough food there to sustain me. I'd actually was able to get in contact with some previous participants, and kind of I'm one of those. I'm always balancing pros and cons, cost benefits. And, after I was there for 19 days, and after being there for 19 days and having a little snow and, building shelters and being on the land, I realized that there just wasn't enough there to sustain me. And, at 19 days, at 60 days or 70 days, you push through that. But, and because you're close to $500,000 at that point, at 19 days, knowing, the quality of the other contestants, and knowing that there's just no way that you're going to have what you need, and also knowing that most of the people that you've seen on the show that have been removed for like low body weight, most of them still have long-standing health issues, hearts and digestive issues and joints, and I wasn't, like, my life is too valuable. I was, audience out there, I love you, but I wasn't willing to put my body. I wasn't willing to screw up my body for you.
19 days is still a long time.
Yeah.
How much of that is, I always wonder when I was watching, I haven't watched it in probably since after season 4, but how much is that is luck of the draw where they place you? Has to be a part of it.
Well, luck of the draw is a big part of it, and the producers and the people that do the location scouts, they do a great job. They every location isn't the exact same. It doesn't have the exact same resources, but every location has has everything that's necessary for survival. So me saying that the food wasn't there.
What were the food sources?
There was at my location, not much, but there was a good amount of forage. While I didn't have enough food to survive, I still probably ate a pound of berries or so every day. I shot a squirrel in the show. There were a few more squirrels, and that's one of those things that you don't know really about the show is they're not going to let you go in and just decimate the squirrel population out of the area. So, with all the squirrels that I was able to take under the permits that we had, it was still just insignificant, as far as the number of calories that it would produce. My downfall was I didn't spend enough time researching fishing. I probably had one of the better fishing spots at my location. And had I understand that lake has about 7 different species of lake trout that breed and eat each other, I would have had a little bit different perspective. So over here, when the bite's low, fishing wise, you generally slow down and size down was I always told.
Mhm.
And I needed to actually do the exact opposite. I needed to start fishing with bigger lures that imitated fish, and they didn't show it on the show, but I had a couple of just monsters that got off. We had to use barbless hooks.
Mm.
I had a couple of monsters, but I also had the equipment to size up, and that was on me. That was me. Like I said, the production did their job giving me a location that had all everything that I needed to survive.
Mhm.
I just wasn't at a place where I was able to fully utilize it. And
How many days did the winter last?
it was Jordan Jonas at that point, Sandpoint guy, by the way.
Mhm.
And
Representing both
yeah,
of
he
you.
did,
Nice.
yeah. And he won. I can't remember how many days exactly, somewhere around 75 or so.
Ooh.
He was the first person on the show to harvest a big game animal. He harvested a moose on there.
Oof.
Fought
How'd he
off
kill
a
the moose? Is it a
wolverine.
bow?
Yep, with the bow.
No shit.
Fought off a wolverine. Like, ended up killing another wolverine with an axe. Like Jordan is legit.
That's
He's
awesome.
a good guy. And of everybody that I'd met as a participant, he was one of the favorites. But he's just the nicest guy as well. Like he deserved it.
Nice. They make it, and I like the 10 pieces that you bring.
Mhm.
Can you tell us the 10 pieces that you brought and why?
Gosh, 10 pieces I bought. Let's see. It was a
I
ni-
saw it on a list with your name. I did a little research too.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I like that was one thing I really liked about it is why they brought it, the philosophy of why you brought it, and if it actually worked out for you.
My overall philosophy in selecting my gear was that, and it was a little bit of a risk. I didn't take any food items.
Oh, that's not your list.
And
That's somebody
so-
else's.
That's right there. I guess. Yeah, I took a multi-tool. I took a saw. I took an axe. I took a sleeping pot, bag, a pot, a ferro rod, fishing line with hooks, bow and arrow.
They got trapping wire and a knife.
Yep, trapping wire and a
There
knife.
you go.
And so I was very, very tool oriented. There are some limited food items. I think it's like a pound or something of trail mix, or like a pound of pemmican or something like that. But my philosophy was that I'll burn off the energy that from a pound of anything in a day. And so my philosophy was kind of go with all the tools that you need, and you'll find food or you're not.
Hmm.
And I
Mhm.
didn't.
And I didn't.
But
Do you like, is your clothing part of that?
yeah, and so your clothing is on a separate list. They give you a
Okay.
list of clothing, but you can't take. First of all, every single item is individually approved. You bring a knife, they're not going to let you come out with a Swiss Army knife. I mean, maybe if you fought for it, but they want you to make have good equipment that's going to allow you to do what you need to do out there, because they are making a show, and so all of that equipment is individually. It only can have one real purpose, one intended purpose. So, like my axe had an odds on the back of it, and I had to either select a different axe or cut the odds off.
Really?
Yeah, and so because
What-
it had two purposes,
Ah,
And
has to
so-
have one individual purpose.
and one individual purpose. And so, but the clothing list is, they give you a list, and it can be, one pair it's like 3 pair of outdoor pants, 1 light jacket, 1 heavy jacket, and so on and so forth. And you can pretty much select anything within those categories, but those still are individually approved. So when you get there, and if you have, like, one of the biggest ones was how they distinguished a jacket versus a sweater or sweatshirt. And so there was people that figured a pullover was going to work for a certain thing, or a zip up was going to work. And so those items weren't approved, and they have to do a quick order of something else that would meet their specifications for it. And, or, if you go up there and you've got a 40-degree sleeping bag there, they're like, no, we're not sending you out with that. Go get yourself a 0-degree bag or warmer. So they go through and they do diligence to make sure, they want to make a show and they want to make a good show and they want you to have the gear that you need
Mhm.
to do so. And so
Were you supplying all that gear for yourself? Did they give you like an allowance of money or something like this? Or
yeah, they give you an allowance. I know I spent more than my allowance, because there's some stuff that I had already just from the life I live, but there was other things that I wanted to improve, and like I got a good sleeping bag. Like
Mhm.
What did you get?
It was what was it? I can't remember.
Was it down or synthetic?
It was down. It was down. I went with down and don't get it wet.
Western Mountaineering or something like
No,
that?
it was gosh,
Feathered
it was
Friends?
a Neo something.
Oh, a Nemo?
Nemo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Nemo bag, and I actually used that on a little show that I was on. A little side note is the bag that I used on Alone. I actually got it from a previous participant who had used it in Mongolia. And then I gave it to another participant after me. So that bag ended up going to 3 locations in 3 seasons in a row.
Nice.
I find
nice.
it like interesting. Like, what clothing did you bring and why? Like, what was your jacket? What were your boots? What was your like your base layer?
Well, at the time, like I went with as much wool as I could get, and so I honestly I didn't. I just went to the local places and looked.
Oh, did ya?
I wasn't in a name brand, and there wasn't any brands that were helping me out or I was affiliated with. So I went over and I found as much as I could with wool, and just kind of just like when we're normally going out hunting, plan on layering, knowing that there was going to be a pretty good variance in temperature at certain times, and that eventually it was going to get extremely cold.
Mhm.
So I have a big old jacket. I mean, the fur there, the bear fur on the back of
Mhm.
your chair there, pretty much reminds me of my jacket. I'm not sure if you had that, if you got the thing.
See if you can find that picture, Luke, of his fur jacket.
Oh yeah. So I made this for I'm a predator hunter, but mind you, I love hunting predators. But for some reason, bears have always had a soft spot. I haven't not harvested a bear, and I've been passing bears. Like at this point in my life, I would take a bear on a nuisance call or depredation where it's causing a problem. Ooh, yeah, there's a coat. Well, I'll take a bear for that. But other than that, as far as a personal hunting bear, I've got one. I got one, and I want that bear to be of size that I can skin it out and put it on as a coat. So I'm looking for a good quality size bear, and so I bought a brown Scottish Highland cattle hide, and I made that coat. And I think that coat is really what drew the Alone staffing people.
Yeah.
To me.
You had the look.
I had the
Yes.
look, and they wanted it. They were adamant. Like when I came for the casting stuff, like
They said bring that
they
jacket.
bring that coat. It was pretty much that coat needs to come with you on the show, and I did bring it, though I never got to a point where I really needed to wear it in the field. It wasn't ever quite that cold before that I left. So
Enhance your shooting experience with STOCKY'S stocks. Are you tired of struggling with mediocre rifle stocks that hinder your performance? Imagine having a high-quality rifle stock that not only enhances your accuracy, but also provides superior strength in a lightweight build. STOCKY'S stocks offers a wide range of premium rifle stocks manufactured with hand layup carbon fiber construction, a patented carbon fiber AccuBlock, and multiple finish options. Whether you're a long-range shooter or a hunting enthusiast, our stocks are perfect for you. Experience unmatched precision and durability with STOCKY'S stocks. We provide stock installation instructions, technical support, and guidance to help you choose the right stock for your rifle. Upgrade your shooting game today with STOCKY'S stocks.
It's like the alone part. Like I've done a lot of solo hunting and scouting, and for me, there's like a 2 or 3 day period where it's kind of weird at the beginning. Like when you're out there and they leave you and they jet off or however they got away from you, did it all sink in? I mean, I know you'd probably done a lot of solo stuff, but then you got to actually self-film. You are alone. What was that like?
well, yeah, that oh poop moment came as soon as the helicopter pulled away. You were like, "Oh my god, what did I get myself into?" But yeah, like wilderness survival, being being in a survival session is difficult. In this situation where you're not forced into it for in a car wreck or some kind of dramatic situation. It's just like us going on a hunt, really. But or a drop camp or something like that because you got the stuff that you need. It's minimal, but you got the stuff that you need. Um, but the self-filming part, that makes it 3 to 4 times more difficult. Consider that if I wanted to go and hike that mountain there, eh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a camera, and then I'm gonna every step of the way, I'm gonna set cameras, like 2 or 3 cameras, figure out the route, figure out how the camera looks, get my route, film it, maybe film it through maybe a couple different times from a couple different angles, and then go all the way back up, get my camera again, carry that camera gear, and do that as I progressed up and down this hill. And so the energy expenditure just from the filming aspect is what makes it truly difficult.
Do they mandate any of that, or they show you like the proper way you have to do it? Or
Yeah, and that's probably one of the big criterias. I mean, we go to a little boot camp before the final. They send like generally 20 to 25 people to their little boot camp, and one of the things that I figured is they probably kind of have an idea who they want at that point. But I don't consider myself the best bushcrafter in the world by any means. But if that best bushcrafter in the world was there and didn't embrace the filming, then I'm going to have a better chance of getting on the show. And so that's one of the big things I focused. As soon as I got there, I picked up cameras, started filming with stuff, show that I enjoyed it and enjoyed filming, and I could use the camera in creative ways and understand what they could do in the editing. So I didn't focus on necessarily having to do these just big shots where, I would do the big shot and then have another camera hidden that gets, different aspects of it and just show I understood what they're doing with the editing. But they do, yeah, they kind of they give you the camera quick tour. And I think that's a big part of the evaluation because there has been some amazing bushcrafters on there that you just don't see much of what they did because they didn't film a whole lot. And pretty much I tried to have a camera on almost at all times when I was there because the weirdest stuff happens when you don't have the camera on.
Oh, I can imagine. I noticed when I was watching Alone, some of the women had the best like videography on there, and they got a natural eye for it or something.
Yeah.
But
A little known fact about the girls: there hasn't been a woman that has won the main Alone show. Juanita did win the Frozen spinoff, but there hasn't. But if you take the number of women divided by the average number of days that women have stayed, and then take the number of men divided by the average number of days men stayed, the women have significantly stayed on average longer.
Wow.
it's hard. They got to come in fat because they med out almost every time
Yep.
because they lose too much weight, which sucks. Is it hard like to keep a tight lip like once you're off? Like they go, hey, you don't talk about this shit until it's over. Because I know some of it got leaked and you hear that stuff on YouTube and crap.
Yeah, it's not that difficult. I mean, it's like most of the people that are on there weren't big name people in the beginning. And so it's not like you have a far reaching audience or anything like that. And so, you do what you can to comply with the contract before then to make sure you get on this. So you might have an opportunity to do some other stuff, So
How do you keep batteries charged up?
I got an answer. I already got the answer, I bet. You tell me if I'm wrong. I'm just throwing it out there.
Go for
When
it.
they come med check you, they bring you batteries.
Yep. And then you have the yellow brick does have some basic text functions, and then you have to do a check-in every day. But I could send them a text message on the yellow brick that says, and I did this at one point, like hey, listen, I'm going to run out of media by the end of the day based on my consumption. I'm going to run out of media by the end of the day on this day. And so they'll make sure they have what you need. Yeah, and then the batteries. You do one of the other things that they do bring with the camera gear is you have a pretty substantial bank battery, which also, I mean, people, want to say, like, why if you didn't have why didn't you just move? You got to move. Moving is a big is a big deal once you because you've got to move not only your shelter, but there's a significant amount. I think we have a total of like 7 different cameras, plus the batteries, plus the bank batteries, plus your gear, and all that stuff. So the few people that have decided to move after kind of establishing a shelter, that was something very significant.
And they don't seem to do well after that.
Yeah, some people.
Yeah,
some people that I think Larry Roberts in season 3 or so, I believe he moved and did well. After moving there.
Do you know Clay Hayes?
I had the opportunity to meet Clay. Clay was before him winning was announced. He came out and he helped us out in the field for Mud, Sweat, and Beards, and so we got to know him good in the swamps in Louisiana.
Those Idaho guys are killing it.
Yeah.
So speaking of Mud, Sweat, and Beards, there. So we talked a little bit about beards before the show started here, but I'm actually curious. So I get a lot of questions just walking around and be like, how do you get your beard so long? Or they act like you're putting fucking potpourri or something on it, right, to make it grow. So it just kind of grows, and I have some secrets about how you keep it, let's say, looking good. But my question for you is, I've always been interested. You don't often see dreadlocks, and I don't think race is a thing there, right? It's just it's a process, and I'm curious, could you explain what the process is to kind of start dreads and how you maintain it?
Well, the process is going to be a little bit different based on the texture of your hair. And so with hair textured, coarse and curly like black people's hair, for me, one day I decided, and here's why I decided it was whatever. I decided to do it because, I heard from like native cultures, and you look at even biblically, the story of Samson and stuff, there's a power in our hair. And, from my own spiritual connections, it was kind of basically, it seemed like hair was just an important conduit of energy, whatever, all the juju. So I decided, what the heck, I'm gonna grow dreads. And so I had actually most of my adult life before then, I had a shaved bald head.
Okay.
And so I decided to let it grow out. And all I really had to do was, I made like a little pomade or lock cream from with some beeswax and essential oils, and I just put it in there and took like a wool sock and just rubbed it in a circle, and it kind of balls up. So if you go through my old Facebook pics when I first did it, it just started off with little balls, and I just kept doing that and kept them wrapped, and and then they keep growing. And then once they get a little bit longer, then there's some more upkeep. And my gal now used to have dreads herself, and so she does the upkeep on it now.
Okay.
But for somebody with let's say Caucasian type of hair, there's a couple of different ways. You're kind of forcing it a little bit more because your hair doesn't tend to clump up as easily. So salt is a good one. I'm not sure if and when you guys have been out in salt water, you found that your hair clumps together a little bit more. So using salt or the fast way is they go to somebody and they basically rat it up and back brush it and then roll it into a thing, and then it's just a matter of.
So how many years of growth is that you got there now?
It's about 7.
That's 7 years?
7 years.
Wow.
That's why I fucking love podcasts. You never know where they're going.
Well, I've literally always been fucking curious, right? Because I do this, and people, everywhere I go, oh, nice beard, and I know what goes into it, right? But other people don't.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Think about this. If they're down to here now, think about the afro that I would have. I mean, the thing would be like.
When I see some people with dreads, are dread extensions a thing?
People can.
Okay,
People
because some
can.
are like freaking, and some of the women are just freaking long.
Yeah.
You're like, damn, that's a
Yeah.
lot of maintenance.
And people's hair grows at different rates, but a lot of people, especially with women that have longer hair, they can start it longer, and then a lot of them will start and do the back brush. So they're starting where I'm at.
Mhm.
I started out from being a
They had
bald.
long hair to start.
Yeah.
When you so part of doing this is it never gets washed.
Mhm.
Right? So it's just hot water in the shower, and I comb it out while it's in the shower because you're trying to prevent breakage and snags and things like that to keep it most of the hair the same length. Is there something similar with that? I mean, are you able to shampoo it like a normal head of hair, or
I don't wash it like every time I take a shower, like do a deep wash, but every now and then you kind of got to get your scalp start getting a little itchy, and so I generally will put a ton of shampoo at the scalp.
yeah?
And the shampoo is a detergent, so it breaks down those oils and stuff. And I'll do that right when I get in the shower, and then I just let it sit for a while and try not to let it drip my eyes.
Okay.
And I'll do it at the scalp and then run it out to the ends and just let it sit for a while and then rinse it out. There's no
Okay.
conditioning or anything like that.
Got it.
But
Nice.
yeah.
Good question. I
Hey,
like it.
Hey,
Before we leave, like the movie star that you are,
Oh shit.
is there any like shows you've been on that were kind of bullshitty and you're like, I'm not doing this?
No, I ended up after getting an agent, and he does a good job at looking through the stuff. The one I did that was called To the Wild, and that was on National Geographic, and it was wilderness survival with your dog. But because National Geographic is a Disney Channel, none of their newly developed shows that aren't grandfathered in can have killing in them. So we're doing a wilderness survival show with a dog that you can't
kill to survive.
Can't kill anything. And so that was kind of like the show was what it was. I mean, it was still what it purported to be, but it was just kind of like, and but I went on that show mostly because I just wanted to highlight the relationship that I had with this awesome dog.
Mhm.
And so I think I lost money to be on that show.
Did ya?
I did. I just when I consider the wages that I lost to take the time off, but it was still just a great experience. And incidentally, they sent us out there during grouse hunting season, so they couldn't. They chose not to show it, but people would breast a grouse and throw it in the river. And I got a bird dog with me. I was sitting by the river one day, and I was like, "What's that floating down?" I thought it was birch bark. It was, and this was in northern Maine in like October, and so I'm looking down there, and I was like, "That's a freaking grouse." I was like, "Leroy, really, go get it." He went and fetched up this old breasted grouse, and so I still had some grouse out there and some fresh grouse, and I actually did catch a few fish out there and did pretty good. But that one was the one that was just like, at least put us in a realistic situation.
Right.
Mhm.
Like the show was what it was supposed to be, and I'm glad that they actually did put the little disclaimer at the bottom of the field that, the contestants weren't allowed to kill anything. So, but it was like, I got a hunting dog, and that's one of the big bonuses of having a dog. But we found some creative ways to use the dog in a survival situation.
So you do have an agent that's kind of actively looking for more opportunities for you all the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's more like everything that I've been on since then is kind of just people of casting companies have contacted me through my social media, and I was like, yeah, I'd be interested in that, and send it up to him, and then he does the research and everything. He's supposed to be looking for some stuff, but it's there's only so much in the genre,
That space.
and so just it's easier to just kind of roll with whatever comes in and look at different opportunities.
And your current job, the way you make a living now, is predator management.
Yeah, I'm currently officially a wildlife control operator,
Okay.
which is certified by the state of Washington as a wildlife control operator.
And your business called Apex Wildlife Solutions.
Yes, sir.
And you do. You were telling us a little bit about your contract that you have right now, and I
Uh-huh.
thought that was pretty interesting because one of my questions was, when somebody approaches you with a contract like that to manage a species that you've never done before, I imagine there was quite a bit of research into, and you talk about the bullfrog's lifespan and things like that. But tell us what you're doing with the bullfrogs.
Yeah, well, when the tribe contacted me last year, and they were like, kind of, this is not normal type of wildlife control operator job, but they wanted to do a bullfrog eradication from an area of tribal lands. And so, yeah, first thing I did is dove into it. Like, is this something that I can do? Like, I could go out and take out a few frogs, like any sportsman. I mean, since we've been catching frogs since we were kids, but could I do that effectively at the level that they want? So I did a lot of research, found actually a great eradication program that I modeled my program off of out of Yosemite in California. And, this location is not complete eradication. We're looking for functional eradication. It's because of other tributaries and stuff that's coming in. We'll probably never achieve complete eradication, but functional eradication is what we're going for. But yeah, I did a ton of research, and I was like, yeah, I could do this.
And you're killing the big ones with a pellet gun?
Yep.
This is like a semi-auto assault pellet gun. You're sitting up on a perch, or how's that going?
I wish we had enough frogs that would justify it. But yeah, generally we go out in a boat at night, and the bullfrog's eyes glow or reflect in the light. So we're in the boat at night, cruising around with a little electric motor, and until we see frog eyes, and then we go through, and we got some pneumatic air guns, and we just go out and.
Are these like somebody's pets they released, or how did this become?
I don't know in this specific area. Now, if you look at Yosemite, they were able to trace the bullfrog introduction around the 1930s. So bullfrogs have been with us so long that most people think they're native. Same with like largemouth and smallmouth bass. They're a non-native invasive species as well. But they were introduced because somebody decided they wanted to eat some frog legs, and so they got introduced, and bullfrogs as an invasive species they're probably one of the most aggressive feeding animals that we have in our ecosystem. In college, I actually caught some in Oregon and kept them for the winter, and I was feeding them basically anything that they could fit. I had 3 at first.
Yeah, they got a big mouth, right? It's
Yep.
probably whatever fits they're going to get after.
Oh yeah, if they were the size of dogs, they would eat us.
Oh man.
Like anything that would fit. And then so you're looking at not only the native amphibians they're decimating, but rodent populations, insects are high on their diet. But they'll take ducklings, they'll take birds, they'll take snakes, like anything that they can fit into their mouth and they think they can eat. I actually saw a YouTube video of one that the duck must have walked up to somewhere, foraging like ducks do, and got his face to the frog, and the frog didn't realize it was a whole duck, and the frog had put the entire duck's head in its mouth, and somebody rescued the duck from the frog was struggling around, but it didn't let go.
No,
it didn't realize. Oh, this is too big for me. I'm not.
Maybe it thought the head was going to come off.
I'll get this sucker eventually.
Oh no! Hopefully they don't evolve teeth, because if they do, we're done for.
We're done. So they're obviously like prolific breeders, apparently.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the iguana and the python, or down in Florida where they're just overran with them.
Yeah, in this environment, just because of the temperature, the frogs are hardy, but they don't reproduce quite as fast as they would in a warmer, more temperate climate. But and they don't get quite as big. Like when I was down in the swamps of Louisiana, the frogs look like cats.
Well, I didn't. This isn't an isolated incident either, because when you were on the podcast with, I can't remember his name, was up in North Idaho, Montana. He said that the bullfrogs are crazy over in Northwest Montana too. So. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and most people, it's not a big enough environmental impact that people necessarily see it as a problem, until you understand all of the ins and outs of it, and all of the native species that are being negatively impacted by the presence of those bullfrogs. Because let's face it, everybody likes to see a frog. Like I see a frog and I get giddy.
Yeah, it's not like a rat or some species that people like go, oh, it's a frog.
Yeah, or like cougars. Like, in this day and age, in this time, in this area, everybody wants to, like, cougars are beautiful, wolves are beautiful, bears are beautiful, but, just like the bullfrogs, all those everything needs to be kept in balance, and so that's kinda, you know, the bullfrogs is kinda right along with my mission as a predator hunter and someone that is promoting, science-based, predator management, science-based wildlife management.
I saw you posted recently about you commented a bit about the guy with the wolf in Wyoming.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit? Maybe tell them the backstory. I don't think everybody kind of heard about it. I was starting to tell my kids yesterday, actually. They're like, what do you mean the guy tortured a wolf? And so.
Yeah, and I purposely in my posts about it didn't say his name. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to make this dude famous.
Oh,
But
his name, his face is
yeah,
everywhere at this
yeah,
point.
yeah,
He
but
did that to
yeah.
himself.
Well, the gist of it is this guy finds a wolf, runs it over with the snowmobile, somehow catches the wolf, tapes up his mouth, and then parades it around, I believe, for a couple of days before finally shooting it. I guess the wolf was injured. Just it was a cruelty situation. Uh, and this is at the same time where all across the country we are fighting for the ability to manage our predators and our ecosystem. We can't have a good wildlife management system if we don't have all the tools. And I gave it to an example of say a writer that suddenly was told you cannot use the vowel a. So we want you to write a book, but there's no A's. And so think about how effective you would be at writing a book with not being able to use the letter A. And that's what we're looking at in our wildlife management programs right now. And so we're in a fight for people that are trying to take away different tools that won't allow our wildlife management agencies to effectively manage wildlife, and then this guy goes and does this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as soon as I saw it, I had to say something about this. Like, this is not hunting. This is not what hunters do. This is not the values of hunters. Like, most hunters, for them, not only the hunt but the harvest, it's all a spiritual thing. It's all something that we're deeply affected by. It's a way it's a way for recreation. It's a way to harvest food. It's a way to connect with the land. The whole thing is just this beautiful tradition, but that tradition does not include cruelty. Like, it annoys, not annoys, it pisses us off and disgusts us just as much as anybody. And I could see very early on that this would be a tool that people that are trying to take away our hunting rights and privileges would try to use to characterize hunters. So I wanted to jump right on it and say, we do not condone this. This is not acceptable to us.
Predator or not, there's always these hunters that are off the beaten path, whether they be poaching or posting things incorrectly or gloating, whatever it is that they're doing. But yeah, giving hunting in general a bad name. And we definitely don't need to give them any more fuel than they already have.
No. And that's the same thing with our Second Amendment rights. A lot of the stuff that, that people are trying to take away that is really going to, have a much more detrimental effect to us. There's these bad apples, but there's bad apples in everything. You go to the church and there's that one guy that's a bad apple in the church that proclaims to be the holiest person. There's the bad police officer, there's the bad whatever, but we can't let the bad apples define us as a people.
They're going to cherry pick. This was a huge, I own a forum called rockside.com. This was a huge thread on there, and it's interesting to see different perspectives on it. It's very simple for me. Do you put hunting in a good light or a bad light? This was 1000% a bad light. There's a certain percentage of hunters. There's a certain percent of antis. We're never going to reach those antis. We're talking to that big block in the middle. This did not help our cause. No. And this is not hunting. This is not a hunter that respects animals. And I can say that being a lifelong pretty much hunter in Idaho, I freaking hated the wolf. Like I hated them because they decimated the elk that I hunted in the places I hunted. But the further along, the older I've gotten, I no longer hate the wolf. I respect the wolf. I hate the bureaucrats that pushed this apex predator on us the way they did. They always moved the goalpost. In Idaho, the 1,100 was the total 3 states combined. That was the carrying capacity we get a hunting season. In Idaho, it was 10 breeding pairs, 150 wolves. Well, it took us to where it was almost 1,000 plus wolves before we could even hunt or trap them. And we are barely even killing the amount of wolves born in Idaho every year. We're barely harvesting that amount each year. That's what I hate is they keep moving that goalpost. Can you talk about ballot initiatives? It's the same thing. It's not the fact that we have wolves or we have grizzly bears, is we have these set of standards by scientists and biologists. They come in and they move that goalpost. So we can never do aggressive management that's needed. That's what really pisses me off. And I don't know how we fix that because it seems to be getting worse. And I do believe it's the sportsmen. We are always, you talked about it earlier before the podcast, we are never proactive. We're always reactive. The sportsmen we have a lot of power, but we need to speak up, and we need to speak up a lot.
In a unified voice as well. And and like from my understanding in my research, when I got into it, my wolf is what pulled me into wanting to start to learn how to hunt predators, and then getting a better understanding of the situation in Idaho. And it's my understanding that, there was a sustainable management objective of you said about 150 wolves, I believe you said.
So Idaho's objective when they released them was 10 breeding pairs, 150 wolves, anything past. And once they hit that quota, we could start hunting them.
Right. And then, like you said, when those objectives were met, that's when the fight started that prolonged it. And now we're to the point that even in all of the years that Idaho has allowed hunting and trapping of wolves, there's only 1 year, and I believe it was 2022, that the population was the estimated population was reduced, but the reduction was so insignificant that the pups born a couple of months after those numbers came out would have called for an increase. Now, like you said, there's a sustainable management objective is 150 wolves, and we're well over 1,000.
Yeah,
and look. I mean, think about what impact does that have on the ecosystem and the environment.
Yes.
They're beautiful, and I look at things from a big picture type of situation. Like, the ecosystem eventually will find a balance, but we've also artificially reintroduced a velociraptor of the velociraptor of the forest. We reintroduced him to a population that wasn't prepared for them. And you throw a velociraptor into Seattle and see what happens. It's carnage. Like if they want the velociraptor in there, we need to slowly manage how that stays, because there's stuff. I mean, we're talking, just about all of the North American species that we love. Definitely almost all of the game species. The North American model of wildlife management was used to bring those species into the thriving numbers that we have now. So if you enjoy huge numbers of white-tailed deer, Rocky Mountain elk, black-tailed deer, mule deer, bighorn sheep, moose, everything, and our predators, even our cougars and our bears and our wolves. Like, the North American model was used to get those to the thriving numbers. But when you start taking the letter A, when you start taking little pieces out of the ability to effectively manage them, I'm a firm believer that ballot initiatives regarding wildlife management should be done. We should not allow that. That is too big. That's like basically, would you let somebody vote on? Well, they try to do that too. About your medical procedure.
It should just be more science-based rather than letting people vote on what they feel.
Exactly.
Ballot initiatives are emotion. They're emotion driven. This isn't Disney.
No.
This isn't Disneyland. This isn't the Lion King. These animals get killed. It's real life.
And that is the truth of the matter. Like, Mother Nature is absolutely beautiful, but she is absolutely brutal. And that's, going into, that's why I taught myself wilderness survival skills in the first place. There is no safety, there's no security, and people are trying to create a world that they think is safe and secure when that is a myth. It's dangerous. Like, death is going to happen, everything dies. But as the stewards of the ecosystem, we have a responsibility to try to help maintain that homeostasis, that ever-changing balance in the ecosystem. And then when you take the tools away from us to do that, we're losing decades, if not hundreds of years of conservation efforts because somebody doesn't feel good. Because like the Washington State Fish and Wildlife Commissions, like they tell their biologists, we see the science you're presenting, but it just doesn't feel right to us. So we're going to do something else. Like, this is our ecosystem. This is our world. Everything is tied together, not just the fauna, but the flora. A lot of the antis like to kind of go back to how the wolf changed Yellowstone, which has some great stuff, but it's all still, everything has to be in balance. If we take all that balance out, then we're setting us up for ecological disaster. Like,
right. Why don't they ask the moose how it feels about the wolf, that it's pretty much eradicated in lots of its natural habitat? You take North Idaho, for instance, there's other reasons the moose is not doing well. But a huge, huge reason is the wolf. At Yellowstone, they hardly see any moose. Why? Wolves.
Yeah.
And they don't like you can't replace one species and not hurt another. It's just,
yeah. And some of that is to be expected. I will admit, I'll readily admit that. But the University of Washington and Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, they're currently doing the Predator Prey Project, and they just kind of recently released some information about that project, and that project pretty much says in Washington they're primarily feeding on moose. I went to the WDFW website yesterday and just kind of was like looking at the moose population, and I was pleased to see that in February they started doing some survey work that's going to last a couple years to recheck. It's been said, I think the last one was done in like 2016, and the estimated population of moose was about 5,000. But I think I would be shocked to find that that we're anywhere close to that at this point, with the wolves primarily feeding on the moose.
And you're on both sides of this. Hunters do a really bad job of showing the journey to the kill or harvest, whatever you want to call it. How do you think we fix that? How do you think we tell a better story?
First of all, a lot of us are not great at just keeping our negative. Like, most of us are hardworking blue collar guys. I mean, don't get me. There's some white collar people that love to hunt, but most of us kind of will flip somebody off in a heartbeat. The first thing I do is, and I post a lot of the stuff, and I leave it open for discussion on purpose. But we have to start having real conversations and unifying our message. Like, in my content, I show the journey, but I also tie it into a science-based ecological and biological need. Like one of my most popular video right now is a cougar hunt that I did about a month ago. And don't get me wrong, I'll hunt cougars out in the middle of nowhere, but I do most of my predator hunting in areas where there's high levels of depredation. And I do that on purpose because I want cougars in our ecosystem. And if they're out in the middle of nowhere living their beautiful little kitty lives, great. But at the same time, having gone out with the Kalispel tribe on their cougar conditioning study, I saw that some of those negative reinforcement around human dwellings, there's a great way to help keep them away from us. And so we've done a bad job at setting hard barriers for them. But to tell a story, I think from my perspective, like for you, me, for everybody that exists today, we exist here today because our forefathers knew how to hunt, fish, and forage. Like, we celebrate our own individual cultures and heritage. We praise the yummy food that our ancestors made and the beautiful clothing we do. But when it comes down to it, the common bond is that they either had to know how to hunt, fish, or forage, or they died. And I mean, that is as much as a part of our heritage is important. Right now, it's probably the only food worth eating. Most of the food that we have in our stores
It's
is
not
full
food.
of poison. Like I think for me, I'm making it a story about heritage, about the best way to increase your health, about the best way to be connected, to nature. Like so many people, we tend to get into these cities now, and people live this urban life where they don't spend any time in nature, and they don't understand the importance of nature. Like, yeah, the people, God bless them, want to save everything, which is, cool. I mean, I want all this stuff to be here. I want my great grandchildren to be able to go out and see this stuff also, but they're not connected enough to understand that there is an ebb and flow, that everything that lives on this planet consumes the life force of something else to continue. When we say we are low energy and we need energy, consumption or absorption is direct energy transfer from one life form to the other. That's the truth of the matter for everything. There are no exceptions. And that is necessary in the natural world as well as, and I almost even don't even like that distinction between the human world and natural world. We're part of the natural world. We're a consumptive member, but also when I step in the woods, I'm prey too. I'm back into my place as predator and prey, and i.e. Brad Pitt's Legend of the Fall. If I had a good death like that movie, like the end of the movie, I'll be happy. I'd rather go that way than rot away in a nursing home. But the short answer is we have to start telling our story and start showing the connectivity. So many of us tend to focus on the kill. And all people are seeing is this kill of this beautiful animal, and because they're sensitive, they're not understanding what we went through, the ones that we missed up, the physical and emotional experiences and breakthroughs and connections that we've created through this process. And a lot of cultures, you weren't considered a full member of the society until you harvested a first animal. That was the thing that signified you being a consumptive member of the society to a contributing
or even
member.
becoming a man. Like that was a step to
Exactly.
becoming a man.
Exactly, rite of passage, and help people understand that this is just a continuation of the natural cycle of the great or the cycle of life that we learned about in middle school. Like, there's nothing unnatural about it. Once you reconnect to the natural world, you understand we're part of it.
I think people don't understand that are non-hunters the reverence. I love elk. I love to kill elk. I love to eat elk, but I put money towards making more elk.
Yep.
And I don't think we tell that story very well.
The most beautiful moments we spend on the field have nothing to do with the kill.
Yeah. But I had a question because predator management.
Yes, sir.
And you said you have a reverence for bears. They're prolific calf and fawn killers.
Yes.
So you say you're waiting to shoot one for a jacket or one for make a fur jacket out of, but they're out there wreaking havoc. And so how do you come to that as a predator management? Is it because that's like your totem animal?
It's not really my totem animal. It's just I personally have a soft spot for bears. That is what it is, and so there's plenty. I'm a proponent. I'm fighting. I did what I can to fight for the spring bear hunt in Washington. I think we have too many bears, and we need to be able to harvest them. For me, I pull at my heartstrings a little bit. Doesn't mean I won't harvest them. From a predator from a predator management perspective, will I hunt bears this year? Yeah, I've already got bear tags in Washington. I'll get bear tags in Oregon. But if I harvest a bear, like with my cougar, I was waiting for calls dealing with ones that are causing problems around people's property. Like, I will feel good about that harvest. But if I'm talking about me going out for my own for just a pure hunting trip to go out and harvest a bear, I will get my tag because I'm waiting for one bear to show up.
Gotcha.
One big, beautiful, and I'll know it at the moment when that's my bear, and I may or may not harvest another bear in my lifetime for that. But like I said, I still will harvest bears that are causing problems. I still will try to fill my tag. I may look towards the timber damage type stuff in a place because that's my job. I mean, not so much with bears, but to deal with wildlife stuff and overpopulations, and to help balance the ecosystem. I'll still harvest a bear.
A lot of people don't know about them, how many trees they strip. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers on how many trees they strip, but understand in Washington we lost the spring bear hunting, the right to the ability to hunt spring bears 2 seasons ago. We didn't lose it just because somebody thought, we don't want you to hunt spring bears anymore. One of the things that propped up spring bear hunting in the state of Washington was that timber damage, and that was a big reason that they established the spring bear. Well, the folks that they sued the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, saying that they weren't doing enough. Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife settled that case, and that removed one of the legs that propped up spring bear hunting. The people that are trying to take our rights are not. They're well organized. They're not coming at it directly. They're going to remove the legs first, and then take away the right. And so, I forgot what was it. What was the original question?
So a single bear could strip bark from as many as 70 trees per day.
There you go. Yeah, and so I mean, it's those trees, and a lot of that is commercial interest. I can definitely see how a lot of the normal citizens will say, well, they've been doing that forever, and so what, But we do have.
Well, it's because there's not as many trees as there was before we come around.
Yeah,
Right.
But at the same time, like I don't like people to go down that realm too much, because everybody wants to say, humans have spread out and we've pushed animals out of this area. Well, if the history of humanity was one day, we've only lived the way we live now for the last 15 minutes or so of that day. So the full existence, the other 24.75 hours of that day, or 23.75 hours
I'm with you.
of that day, we lived in the forest. We lived a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. In the state of Washington, and I'm not sure exactly in the state of Idaho, but in the state of Washington, we got like 70% public land. Then we still have a lot of huge tracts of public land, of private land. Like 5% of the state is occupied by people. The rest of it is magnificent animal habitat. So people want to push around the urban areas, and if you don't get outside, it may look like humans are sprawling because they took Farmer John's field that expanded and took Farmer John's field that was the edge of King County in Seattle. But we are in a state where where the human actual footprint is about 5% of the land available. Like this, there's a ton of animals, and that's why the animals are thriving here. Up here in the Pacific and this northwest corner of northwest corner of the country, we've got wolves, we've got grizzly bears, we've got black bears, we've got cougars, we've got lynx, we got wolverines, we got everything. All 2 species of elk. Like, we have everything, and those animals are thriving here because there is such a great ecosystem here. And the people of the Colville National Forest and the tribes have done such an excellent job of managing the forest that in the Colville National Forest there's more timber taken out of that forest every year than any forest in the country, but you couldn't tell walking through the forest. Like, they do such a great job of doing it in such a beautiful and balanced way of selective harvesting that you're not looking through these forests or just feel saddened by it. Like, there's not unlimited resources, But the reason that we have a high population of all these animals is because we do live in an area with with a vast amount of great land for them. Like, yeah, around the cities, like the reason you don't have wolves in King County is because of that urban sprawl and because they're not going to thrive there. But the rest of the state, really, 95% of the state is magnificent animal habitat.
Right.
And when you finally find your quote unquote dream bear, what are you gonna shoot it with?
Well, I I have fallen in love with 7PRC, and Hornady introduced 7PRC. What is it, about almost 2 years, a year and a half now or so ago? And I was looking at a new rifle, and I was looking at a 300 PRC. And then in doing my research, and I'm one of those people that I will nerd out for 2 months on a gun and cartridge and input all kind of different ballistics information into my solvers before I'll decide on a cartridge. And I was immediately impressed by what I was seeing from 7PRC. So I picked up a rifle from a well-known manufacturer, and I started doing some load development on it. And I've kind of selected that 195 grain Berger 7mm EOL bullet, and the thing is beautiful. But
have you killed anything with that bullet yet?
I killed that cougar about 2 months, about a month ago. Short range was like 50 yards, and it did a beautiful job. Like that bullet was moving right around 2750 from the muzzle. At 50-yard shot through the front.
What's your overall length with the 195?
195 on that one. Let's see. My cartridge overall length is 3.448 at jam. And so I'm running 30 off a jam right now. I think Sammy is 3.3 something. It's way less, but
3.350.
Yeah.
That's been the worst elk killing bullet I've ever used.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Zipping right through.
Zipped right through?
Yeah.
Is that the hybrid?
The EOL?
The Elite Hunter?
Lead Hunter.
You got two. You got to go. 180 hybrid is good. 175 Elite Hunter is good on the Berger side, and then of course the 180 ELDM.
Yeah,
is good.
Yeah, I started doing load development with the ELDM, and I don't know. There's a number of different schools on whether that is that you should hunt with that.
You should. You should.
Yeah, and
1,000,000% you should. So I call it the ELDM, the murder. The M stands for murder.
ELD murder.
Because that's what it does to animals.
Yeah, interesting thing though, and I've heard a couple different explanations for that, but the same powder charge with the 195s, I was getting about the same. I was getting higher velocity with the 195 Berger than I was with the ELDM out of the same gun. And basically, I think they're saying the people I are talking to is if you're running the same powder charge, there's more pressure built up because of the higher cartridge that's pushing it. But I did my first few rounds of load development with the ELDM.
Mathematically, that's not really supposed to happen based on the weight. The only thing that could have a major impact on that would be bearing surface of the bullet.
Yes.
So you have more drag inside the barrel because your bearing surface has a larger surface area.
And I've heard that the barrels that I'm using for that firearm, they tend to run a little slower than they tend to run a little bit slower.
I did my research. It's a Fierce, correct?
Yeah.
They do run a little slower.
Yeah. But
the burgers are fantastic. Like it's just that particular bullet.
Really?
I love burgers. It's just that.
There's kind of a story behind it, and of course nobody knows the absolute answer, but the story was initially when the 195 came out, the jacket was too thin. Right. It was having
it was coming apart.
Yes, it was coming apart when it shouldn't have been, and so on. So after the complaints, they thickened the jacket up, and after that, they thickened it up too much. That's kind of the backstory, and of course, we don't know if that's 100% true or not, but that's kind of... And there are a lot of bad reports. Like any bullet will have failed at some point. The 195 tends to have more bad reports than good reports. Yeah, well, some people will fucking swear by it.
Really?
Other people, just like Ryan.
I shot that cougar. I blew the shoulder, and I did what it was supposed to. It penetrated, 3 to 4 inches in. It blew through the shoulder, so
No
there
doubts.
was not much I think, the biggest chunk of the bullet that I found was tiny, so it blew up, but it didn't, and that cat didn't take a step. But again, that's at close range. And now, correct me if I'm wrong. With a lot of the burger bullets, they're not necessarily designed to have your traditional ballistic terminal performance. They're not supposed to mushroom as much. They're supposed to.
No, they do mushroom,
Okay.
but they have a fort that they're hard for people say, oh, they're a match bullet, so they must just disintegrate. They have a 4 to 6 inch neck link. Basically, it takes them 4 to 6 inches to open.
Mhm.
And a lot of times they don't implode, they kind of explode.
Right.
And a lot of times they J-hook and tumble.
Okay.
But usually they're devastating. Like those 215 burgers right there.
Uh huh.
For most part, every bullet can fail, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Just like every scope can fail. They're devastating on it.
And in reality, if you took a burger matching hunting bullet and a horny matching hunting bullet, and you cross section them, just cut them in half, and you put them all next to each other, it's just a cup over lead core.
Mhm.
There's nothing greatly in particular about. Now there are some slight differences, but in reality, it's basically the same bullet.
Mm-hmm.
The couple. It's not a monolithic bullet that's meant
Right.
to do a certain function. It's not a bonded bullet where the cup is bonded chemically to the lead core to keep it together and let it punch through. There's just not a lot of big differences between all of those
No.
4 bullets. So Hornady and Burger match and hunting all lined up in a row.
The ELDM tends to open within an inch of penetration because the tip shears off and then you have a big old gapping hole behind it and
Right.
it pulls apart. So you have 4 to 6 inches with the Burger and you have 1 inch opening with the ELDM. So the ELDMs look a little more dramatic inside of animal, but people do say they waste a little more meat and it can.
Yeah. Well, and it's not that significant. I mean, like, yeah.
Is it H1000 you're using?
I tried with H1000. My gun likes Retumbo a little bit better, so I went with
Really?
Retumbo. It's a little bit slower burner, and actually, from what I understand, is a little bit better, lower temperature sensitivity. But yeah, I ran loads with a bunch of loads with H1000 because I did a bunch of research on different loads to figure out where to start with. Wasn't a whole lot out there, but
N565 is a good powder too.
that's what
Those are
I've
kind of the
heard as
top
well.
2 for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are all good powders.
Like that big old hefty comp gun in the corner right there, that's a 7 PRC. That's shooting that's a 30-inch barrel shooting 190s at 30-50.
Oh, nice.
198 tips.
Oh, nice.
Now, these were 2 identically built rifles. The 2 barrels actually came from the same rod of steel. They were made one after another.
Uh-huh.
One rifle only likes H1000. The other one only likes N565 with the same bullet. But they shoot the same speed. And we go to the Night Force ELR, the extreme long range challenge there, and shoot those rifles together. But yeah, 198 tip at 30-50 is pretty impressive.
Nice. Yeah, I have a 22-inch barrel, and I'm getting about 2750 out of it. But I selected a load. I'm not doing with my load development. I selected a load because I've got a upcoming wolf hunt in Idaho, and so I selected a load and got it zeroed in with that load. And matter of fact, this week I'm going to try to do some shooting with it. But I'm probably switching over to the
Hornady brass.
I'm in that low. I'm switching. I actually came in. That's how I found you guys. I came in looking for some ADG casings.
Oh,
and so I got a couple of boxes of those casings, but I'm kind of waiting till after this hunt to kind of redo.
Definitely get more speed.
we got enough load data now. They can start you off right.
Mm-hmm.
All those 2 are ADG 7 PRC brass as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to talk to your ballistician and see if I'm doing my load development. I was wondering to see if I could get them to do a load development for that rifle, and then kind of do something for, maybe we can meet up again and talk about the difference between doing your own, the cost and benefits for doing your own load development versus using someone like Unknown Munitions to do a load development to get you there quicker and more, so I got those casings still in the car, so I figured I might talk to them and see if they might be willing to do that. And then I'm kind of one of the only people that it seems to be doing consistent load development stuff on PRC on YouTube, and so
Oh yeah, nice.
got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, if you do a video, I know a guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to see, because that was one thing, after.
but you're gonna have to get away from that 195 though.
Oh yeah, whatever. Whatever you guys do, whatever they develop would be the load for it. Then whatever. I've developed my load based on what I'm doing, and I am. I'm by no means a professional match grade reloader or anything like that. I would say my reloading skills would be more consistent with what the everyday guy would be able to normally do. And then I would like to see the benefits of saying, screw this. I got this beautiful rifle and this beautiful chambering that can do so much. Let me have somebody else spend the money to have somebody else do the load development on it. And what are the performance benefits versus what I could get myself? Yeah.
It's like anything, depending on how many rounds you end up trying or how many different powders you end up trying because of lack of experience or so on, you end up spending the same amount of money you'd spend just to have it done. But, and then, you're killing your barrel life as you go. If you shoot 300 freaking rounds to find your load, depending on the cartridge, you're well into the life of your barrel. And do you find that, is that barrel pretty accurate for you? I mean, what are you shooting once you've done your load development there?
Well, I am definitely not a competition shooter. Okay. I found out, but actually through the process of doing the load development, I've actually been starting to really hone in, and I've worked with a little bit with a couple of competitive shooters to kind of really start kind of working, like take myself out of the variable. I got this rifle because I want to be able to harvest game out to longer distances. In a lot of places I hunt 500-yard shot is pretty much the average shot. And so I want to be able to do that but more importantly, a lot of our clients come into that environment not ready or with a setup that's ready to shoot. And so I never want them shooting with my gun to be the reason that they say they missed. And so, that's the big goal for me with that cartridge. So, I'm probably once we selected a load, I was shooting about a little bit more than half MOA.
Okay.
But, I know the gun will shoot way better than that.
Yeah, sometimes the reason I ask is sometimes we'll have those rifles come in for load development, and if we have an issue getting into shoot decent, I mean, we have our own kind of if in other words, if it was that rifle,
right,
we have our acceptable tolerances and things like that. And it's not just about what you can do at 100 yards. We see rifles that'll shoot a quarter inch at 100 yards and it goes to 650 and it falls apart.
Yeah.
It'd be a 10-inch group at 650.
And I've heard vice versa. It was surprising.
Same thing. It can be. It can be like you can shoot 3/4 of an inch at 100 and have it put 3 in an inch hole at 650. It's it's definitely, but the point is that it's always different, between distance and up close.
Yeah, and that's kind of my next step with it, and what I'll be shooting for with this rifle.
Sometimes we need to bed those guys is what I was going to get to. Sometimes the rifle just needs a little bit of help to get to that full custom level, basically. And bedding has a lot to do with a rifle's accuracy. Proper bedding job, yeah.
Sometimes we also just chase our tail to get that little extra that you don't really need because you can't shoot that well anyways. And I'm not saying you, I'm saying all of us.
And actually, that was something that determining what is acceptable accuracy for me. That was one of those things we'll get at 100 yards. We start really focused. We want to do everything we squeeze, but when it comes down to it, I'm not a competitive shooter. Like my goal is to be able to put it in the vitals pretty close to right where I want it, out to 600 to 800 yards on an animal. So
what kind of YouTube following you got?
Well, that last cougar, I blew up after this last cougar hunt, so I'm up. I just crossed like 7,000 viewers, which isn't a whole lot, but I think that cougar hunt is getting close to 200,000 views.
Nice
on that thus far.
On the cougar, can you kind of take us through that calling, how that works?
Oh, yeah. Well, in Oregon and Washington, I've actually never lived in a state where you can hunt cats with dogs, and so. It's always been predator calling, and I did some mouth calling and stuff like that. But when you're mouth calling, you're calling an animal directly to you, which makes you the center of the. You've got a predator eyes forward, binocular vision, and you're putting not only your scent right, as at the center of their focus, but the calling and yourself. And so I went to using electronic predator calls, and I was using a Fox Pro for years, and I've done great. I've called in 5 cats in 21 months thus far, and 4 of them are dead. Uh, but on this call, I got a brand new call to the market. It's made by Freak Calls, and it is the first ultrasonic game call.
Freak calls.
Freak Calls. So it's the first ultrasonic game.
Is that the video there, Luke?
That is it. So I was by myself. I didn't get the kill shot on it.
Are you like at a dude's house?
Yes. Yeah.
You're in his yard.
Huh? I killed that cat. Oh, that's 100 yards from the house.
Wow.
And
So this was a call you got out for your business, predator management?
No. Well, that we don't do under the business. It's basically I've got as a wildlife control operator, we don't do with big game stuff. But
Okay.
I'm a guy with a tag that people know that I like to hunt predators, and so people have been there's just been a whole lot of cougar activity the last 2 months. People been getting a hold of me, and so this guy had been trying to get a hold of me for months. And so I met these guys. I actually saw the video for the freak call and was very interested in the science. And just think about a regular whistle versus a dog whistle. There's 50% of the sound that animals hear we don't hear.
No shit.
Well, the freak call has the sounds recorded to play those, to purposefully play those sounds.
Luke, go
that
to the
we're not
part
hearing.
where the cat kind of comes in.
He didn't get it. It's not on there.
Oh, it's not on there.
It's
Okay.
not on there because it came in and it saw me, and
Oh.
I could raise the camera or I could raise the gun.
That's a
and
good sized cat.
That's it.
Did it sneak in? You didn't like it
6
just
years.
And that's most of the cats that I've called in have kind of come in stalking. She came in running and jumping over stuff, and she was a 6+-year-old, 105 or so pound female. She has a full belly. She was not pregnant, and so for a cat that is completely full, and so this is the lady and her son
That called you.
They had 2 cats in their
Wow.
backyard the night before. That wasn't one of the cats in the picture.
were they getting taking animals or food or what were they doing?
Oh, there's just a ton of cats in this area.
Well, I imagine a mom with a kid is
Yeah.
rather concerned with their kids playing
Exactly.
out back, with the cats running around.
Exactly. And then the neighbor, some of the neighbors, they didn't have any livestock, but the neighbors are losing dogs and cats, and there's a strong farming community, so there was a lot of depredation.
You include a lot of that in your video explaining that this
Yes.
was, kind of a.
Yeah, that's the point of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I try to include that in all my videos. And while I wasn't able to get the kill shot, I think the success of that particular video, like I said, it's almost at 200,000 views in a month.
You said though that your predator management business
Mhm.
doesn't control big game, right? So cats wouldn't be included in that.
We don't do it under the wildlife control operator license. Now, having that said, and I dealt with and put a petition to Washington Fish and Game to start using us for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not going to go. It didn't. My petition didn't go through. But what they did tell me is that a lot of the stuff I want to do, I can do. What I can't do is outside of the season affect a lethal removal. I can support the landowner in doing so within the bounds of the law, but I can't affect. But there's definitely depredation stuff I can do.
Is there different rules that apply there? If the cat is near a home where a child is, or near cattle or something like this, are there different rules for season in season, having a tag, not having a tag?
Yeah, basically in Washington, you have to, in order to affect the lethal removal, you have to catch it in the act of active depredating. That could be an actual animal attack, but in most cases, just having a cougar around your livestock or stalking a person or something like that is enough. They're not unreasonable, and then in a situation where cats do affect the depredation or actually kill something, then they have one strike and they're out. They rarely move or transplant animals that are depredating.
That's why I was asking, because I know people that do it for the government takeout. Like, and it's usually there's livestock, pets, or fear of losing your life.
Yeah, what I can do, but what I can do is during, like, I've been running ragged, chasing up cougar calls this year, taking out, like, I filled my tag, and then all the rest of March, I took out a bunch of different people that were looking. I think I called in another cat for a guy that wasn't able to get a shot off at it like a week after this one.
So most of the time with your call, you're going into an area where you know there's a cat?
That's ideally.
I mean, what if, for example, I got a cougar license here in North Idaho, and I just want to tromp out in the middle of the Coeur d'Alene forest and set up a call and just sit there and watch it? I mean, is there...
I'll say you're about 70, when you're on hot sign, whether it be somebody just saw a cat in their backyard, or you're hiking around looking for fresh tracks and sign. If you're on hot sign, you're about 70% likely to call in a cat. If you're just going out cold calling, you're less than 5% likely to call in a cat. And so the big thing is get on the freshest sign that you can.
There's got to be a one around to call.
Yeah, but at the same point, there's also so many that are out there. Like, if you get in the area that I harvested that cat as just unreal. Like, one of the neighbors claims that he saw 7 cats in one tree at one time in that area, and another guy down in the Spokane Valley area showed me several videos of a pride of mountain lions that have been hanging together for weeks during that time. He showed, at least the videos he showed me, over a week's of sequence of five cats that have been hanging around. Like, if you get into the right areas where they're hanging around, there's still a good chance. I would say, going out and into the deep wilderness area, you're probably less likely on a cold call. But if you're getting in those areas where people are seeing and reporting high densities, then you're probably a little bit better. Have a little bit higher odds.
Lampert's had a good story, didn't he? Called in wasn't that video we were just watching? He was in the middle of nowhere and they called one in.
He called in. I think he's called in a bear and a wolf, or a coyote, or cougar.
I called in a pack of wolves in Oregon in June. Like, I was on a cougar hunt in Oregon in June, and I used the electronic call, and it was literally, I was doing a 90-minute set, and 89 minutes those wolves came in. There was a pack of 3 that came in. There was more in the trees, but we saw 3, and they came down. The closest one was 5 feet from my wife. She's like, I could have reached out and touched it, and then the other one was, they were about 10 feet from me, but I was hunting with my AR-10, my Bighorn Armory AR 500, 50 cal AR, and so I put a bullet in the ground between us. But I got like 7 minutes of film. One of them just kind of ran off, kind of barked and howled. It actually started to come back in, and I finally stood up and scared it away, so I didn't create a situation.
Cold calling, or did you know they were there?
No, I was calling for cougars. I was calling. It was fairly cold, but it's one of those areas. I took a cat from that area the previous year, and there's been a lot of cat activity. So I didn't have hot sign, but I knew it's a good density area. But I didn't find any cats in the 5 days that I was hunting, and then I figured out why.
What call were you using?
Well, my theory is that distress is distress. And so I primarily use distress. I do use some cougar vocalizations when I'm looking for it, but distress is distress. If you can get distress sounds in the ears of the cat, you're more than, like, curiosity kills a cat. They're more likely, unless they know you're there, unless you've tipped them off in your approach and setup, or some other way. Like, scent is almost a non-issue with hunting lions. They're a visual predator, so scent is like way far down. Like on most of if you're setting up on an elk stand or something like that, that's one. But with cougars, scent is way down the low. So if you can get any distress in their ears, they're going to come in. So I through my calling sequences, every about 10 to 15 minutes, I'm switching different distress sounds. Not so much that I think one is better than the other, but in different cover, different ranges of sound are going to penetrate the forest that you're in differently. So some of them I'll run lower sounds, sounds that are lower ranges, and some that are higher range, but all is all the stuff that it seems as much as frantic as possible.
So you're going from like a rabbit to a coyote to a calf, all distresses. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I generally do use a bunch of the rabbit sounds, but I'll go through like, woodpecker and like on your Foxborough, the woodpecker sounds, the rodent sounds, the groundhog, prairie dog. Yeah.
That's interesting because I've been around 2 wolf killed. I killed 1 wolf, calling them in. It was coyote pups in distress, and both of them got shot by that. And
Oh yeah.
the thing is we kind of figured out there was a den close by,
Yep.
so it's hot, and that like little
And it was,
sentry.
right about this time of year.
It was in May.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why they should be bred. They should be pupping soon. They should be denning soon. So I'm hoping that I got 2 weeks in that we're going to be spinning in zone 1, and I'm hoping that I can get the sound within the hearing range of a den. And I got 3 tags that I would love to punch all at one time, and then go pick up some more.
In Idaho. Nice.
Yep.
But take them all with you.
I'm doing my best.
I hope you're very successful.
But yeah, I mean, and that's kind of, and for hunting them, that was part of the reasons I got the 7 PRC, so I can reach out accurately and send a big bullet through hopefully more than one at once. But
It's funny you say that. Ryan Lemper said, I want to do 2 for.
No, that's my goal. But if I can get
Buy one, get one free.
Exactly.
if I can get that call out and get myself backed away as much of it as I can to take, so it takes, because wolves are smart. I don't, and they will sit in the back of the trees. They'll look. And then if I'm sitting there picking my nose or doing whatever I'm doing in my stand, they don't come in because so I want to remove myself as far as I can away from the calling source and sit back there and snipe them as they come in.
I saw we're gun people. What was your suppressor?
I use Bowers suppressors. Bowers Group out of Cornelius, Oregon. Like great company. You guys, are you affiliated with a suppressor company?
Nope.
Okay, great company. Here's one of the things. I went over and met with Tom Bowers myself and spent some time with him. Great guy. It's I think they got 3 people that run the business. He's got crazy machining stuff. But the thing that I was impressed is they make some of the quietest suppressors on the market. And they stand behind them. Like with a lot of companies, if you do something stupid and let your can start to unscrew and you screw up the baffles in there, to get that repaired, you're gonna be spending about half to 3/4 of the cost of a new can to get that repaired. But Tom, if you screw it up and it's rebuildable, he'll rebuild it for you for shipping. So
Nice.
His 50 cal suppressor, for instance, he's got a love-hate relationship with it. And I use it not for BMGs, but for my 50 Beowulf and 500 Automax. Like, he's got the quietest 50 can on the market, but he has his hate part of that is that it's his loudest can that he produces.
Gotcha.
But I use his Dreadnought can, which is anything that'll pass 460 caliber and below. So I got the 7 PRC, but I really love big bore stuff, and so like I think my 460 Bighorn Armory 460 Smith & Wesson lever gun with that Lehigh Defense Extreme Defender bullet. I think I shot 6 animals with that in 2022. Like that was my go-to.
Nice.
I like big bore cartridges.
Nice.
Those are like shooting Volkswagens.
Oh God, yeah, like 20 with the Hornady ballistic tip FTX round. It's 2,200 feet per second out of a revolver. 2875 with a 200 grain 45 caliber bullet out of it's a sledgehammer.
You ever play with the 458 SOCOM?
Oh, I didn't. I went 50. I looked at the 2. I went 50 Beowulf.
Gotcha.
And then Bighorn sent me. I'm one of their brand ambassadors, as a matter of fact. They sent me AR 500, and I haven't touched my 50 Beowulf. I haven't touched my 50 Beowulf since.
Oh, Jake, you got any more questions?
No, sir.
Ray Livingston, I appreciate you coming on. It was a fantastic podcast.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you, and most importantly, like I found you, the folks from ADG sent me your information as a vendor, and then someone else online sent me to you guys, and like I left when I left here, not even talking about the potential to do the podcast. Like your staff was great. Your people are knowledgeable. Your ballast station took the time to talk to me. I left here thinking like this is a place that I would love to do business with, and that I will recommend that people do business with. And so, thank you guys for having for the way your philosophy and the way that you do business, the way that you should support your staff in it. Like I was impressed from the moment I walked in.
Nice. Well, appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we can definitely help you out with the load development thing.
Heck
Yep,
yeah.
yep. Be a good time.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.